And I do think more and more we'll probably in a nice way be envious of each other's work and go, wow, how did they do that thing? I think those are good things to go, I've seen this in the movies. Why can't I have it in my advert? They're good questions. I think wherever we go on this creative journey, we need soul, we need connection. And what I would hate is I think virtual production is great. We can do all this cool stuff, but what we can't lose is heart and soul and emotion.
Peter, so nice to meet you.
It's great to be here. It's been a while, but it's going to be worthwhile. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited to get into it. I mean, you are, when you're out talking to people, like a lot of people point to you as kind of the essential CMO of our times, and with your repertoire of and body of work. I'm really excited to get into it. I mean, makes you wonder, is very much geared towards marketers, creator culture, AI, obviously, and the landscape that we now exist in. And it's a fun time to bring all that stuff up, like especially from someone like you who's been in marketing and advertising for so long.
That's brilliant. Thanks for having me on. And I'm with you. It's such an exciting time for the industry. I'm kind of buzzing most of the time, but I'm particularly excited at the minute because there's just so many good things going on, which we can get into. Really exciting.
Yeah, and is that a note to start on? Are you optimistic about the times that we live in? There's a lot of talks now, obviously, with the conference in Paris is stirring up lots of discussion about, obviously, the future of AI and how we're going to regulate and still compete and build for the future, etc. Are you an optimistic person about the state of the world?
I have to be optimistic because it does feel like a really exciting time. I also think there's some really exciting work out there that I really admire and like from brands. So I think if you were coming in the industry now, I don't think there's ever been a better time to get in and embrace and work in the wonderful industry of marketing advertising.
I tend to be on the optimistic side as well. I think that's a way to manifest the future anyway. And what I talk a lot about is obviously the creative side of AI, with Wondercraft, our company that we're out and that's the speaking engagements and everything that I do is all around how do we harness these technologies to really empower our human creativity, which I think we're entering kind of a new era of human creativity with AI. Things are changing, but it's not that doom and gloomy that people make it out to be, in my opinion. I think it's going to unlock a whole new world of job opportunities and interesting ways for us to interact with each other and for brands and companies to really come on board. So,
I think you're right. And I think there's a danger, isn't it, whenever anything new comes along, we're sort of, we can all feel a bit challenged and threatened. And I think it's more about, you can't bury your head in the sand. It's about harnessing the best of what you're finding and what's emerging and going, how can we make this work for us? I was working on a job description this morning for a role I'm hiring for. And I used a bit of AI with Microsoft Copilot to help me with bits of that. And it was brilliant because it saved me a couple of hours work. Now, ultimately, I wrote it. I added bits to it and asked AI to add some extra bits. And together, we sort of co-created it. And that was a lovely feeling, but saved me, as I say, several hours. And therefore, I think there's a role where if we use these things in the right way, it can be an enabler, be additive rather than detracting, and hopefully make our craft and what we do easier. My watch out is, I think, for us as a brand in Boots, we're using it for a number of things, like AI, for things I can talk you through. But I don't at the moment, for example, want to use things like AI models because we're a health and beauty brand. So I think it's really important that it's authentic, isn't it? So when I'm talking to you about a skin cream or about what vitamins can do, I want to see real people and a real environment. So I think there are limitations where I've already drawn some lines over things that just don't feel right for our brand. They might be right for other brands, but not right for our brand. So I do think there's a bit of already setting the parameters that work for your brand and knowing your brand to get the best out of these advancements, but also know where you want to draw the lines and where you want to maybe hold on to some things and do some stuff a bit differently.
Yeah, let's get into it. I love talking about this, and I know you're a busy man, so we have a couple of minutes here to get into it all. And I would love to touch on that, the idea of authenticity later, because I think a lot of marketers actually get that wrong. But I want to start kind of simple here. What's the real job in marketing at Boots now? When you wake up as a CMO, what are the key things that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I love that question. Look, Boots is an amazing brand. You say 176 years old this year. And our purpose is to be with you.
I mean, that's incredible, by the way. Let's just stop there.
That's still amazing, isn't it, thinking about that. And I mean, the purpose to be with you for life, we've developed, it goes right back to the history of the business, which is to be with you for every moment of life, for the good times and the bad times. And so many brands promise to be with you for good times and to take you into good times, but very few brands acknowledge that sometimes we all have rubbish days. And actually, a brand that says, I'm going to be with you on an amazing day or a day you're battling something. Could be your baby's ill, or could be you're going through something life threatening, and we'll stand with you and we got what you need. For me, it's quite different for a brand to be able to do that authentically. So, your great question, what keeps me awake at night, is how do we keep living and breathing to be with you for life in everything we do? And importantly, relevance is so important for brands, particularly brands that have been around a while. We can all think of brands we've grown up with or know that aren't here anymore, or brands that we used to have as a really important part of our lives, but now are not in our lives. And I think the thing that really drives me is how I keep Boots constantly relevant every single day. And when I came into Boots, people would say to me, "Oh, you're joining good old Boots." And to point, it sort of wound me up a bit because I thought, well, yeah, but good old Boots feels recessive. It's like this thing that good old Woolworths, good old Debenhams, and so I've coined this phrase that we use regularly that I want to go from good old Boots to oh my gosh, wow Boots. So I want people each time they see us communicate to go, wow, it's the Boots I know, but it's Boots plus plus. Boots doing way more than I expect them to do. New beauty brands, new health and wellness offerings, new pharmacies, so things you know, but so much more. And that's how you get new boots across. That's how you get relevance. We celebrated our 175th birthday last year, as you said, great milestone. And what I didn't want to do is do a sort of self-congratulatory campaign of, woohoo, we've been around a long time. People go, well, good for you. For me, last year was more about saying, here's Boots today. Here's what we do today for you. We've got all this muscle memory from the things we've achieved, seen, and done. But the important bit is what we can do in your life right now, in this very moment. The difference we can make in your life in this moment. That's what's interesting. That's what's important.
I can imagine that is a hard balance to find out because you have this legacy brand and you don't want to veer off from the strength that comes from that, right? And that history, but still be relevant and feel like you are with the times and fresh and finding your voice there. How do you practically balance that? Because I think a lot of marketers have struggled with that, or where the company's been around for a long time and they have this legacy. When is it time to kind of let go of the past a little bit and try to modernize certain aspects? How do you approach that to keep the brand fresh and relevant?
At the heart of it is knowing what's at the core of your brand, what makes you special. And a lot of what's at the heart of our brand is the expertise and what we know about this. There's nothing in health and beauty we haven't seen or don't know because we're at the cutting edge of what we do. And if we can stay there, then that's us. And whether we're talking about an established brand like Number Seven or Soap and Glory or Liz Earle, or we're talking about a new brand like Bubble Bioma made by Mitchell, our knowledge is such that we know what those brands do, how they can help you, and the role they play in your life. We've done a recent campaign on beauty that's all about make more room for beauty. And what it's saying is, we do beauty. Oh my goodness, look at all these new brands we brought in. You need to create more shelf space in your bathroom, kitchen, fridge, bookcase, because they're all here at Boots and they're sort of exploding and bursting with newness. That's great because people know we do beauty, they know we're authorities in it, we know we're number one on the high street, but they don't know we do those new brands. Therefore, we're building on a platform of things about Boots, but we're showing you there's a direction we're going in that makes us even more relevant in a TikTok generation world. So it's knowing your DNA and knowing what you are, and also knowing what you're not. We've done a lot of work coding and decoding the brand to go, this is what Boots is, this is who we are, what we stand for, this is what we're about. When you've done that, I've done things that have come in like modernizing language, because attitudes on things that were taboo 10 years ago have changed. So things, that we might have not said 10 years ago, we'll say now, we'll say it differently. So modernizing that's been an important part of what we do too. We'll talk about things in a way that's modern and relevant, but it's still in a Boots way. But it's not a Boots from 20 years ago, it's a Boots from now. But we know it because we know who we are. Be confident in who we are and know ourselves well.
And you're running a big team now across your marketing functions. How big is your team, by the way?
It's about 150 people, and it's a
All
good.
right, yeah,
It's a
that's
good.
sizable.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, a great team as well. Great, best team I've had ever in my career. Actually, it's just a good team delivering at a brand level, in terms of what we're trying to do with the brand and where we take that next, but also delivering at a core performance level. So on each of those things, we're delivering, and also just that we're measuring everything we do. I run very much open book accounting with the finance team with our marketing budget. So anyone could come in at any point and say, what are you spending money on and what's it doing? There's no sort of mysterious secret squirrel special marketing projects that only we know about. I mean, literally come in and you look at anything. If you want to know why we're doing Love Island and what it does for us, come and ask the question. If you want to know about what we're doing with the great team, not just at ITV there, but also at Global with Heart Breakfast, I can talk you through that as well and quite happily share what we're trying to do. And I think yeah, all that really matters. So yeah, having a great team matters, but also running a team in a way that feels very open and accessible, and those kind of things are really powerful unlockers, I think, towards um, pulling out and proving, what you do, the value of what you do, and the connection of what you do back to the wider organization.
That's great. That's very empowering, obviously, to be quite transparent, to trust people that way. Is there anything else in your kind of leadership philosophy do you think is a big piece of your kind of principles that you bring to your role?
I do think it's something about unleashing people's potential. I remember when I first took my first leadership role at British Gas, and no one sort of teaches you about leadership. You're just sort of thrust into it. And I remember overly micromanaging some of the team, and it was stupid. I learned very quickly to not do that. But I remember someone saying, I had this amazing lady that worked for me who's gone on to brilliant things afterwards, and someone said, you just need to get out of her way. And it was quite an interesting expression, but it's a really good way of going, as a leader, golly, I've ended up inadvertently in a way. And actually, what I did is took a real sidestep and worked with it in a way when you're brilliant. Let's keep talking about what you're doing, how you do it, how I support you, how I can help you. You check in with me. We've got a clear strategy of what we're doing. But I just let her loose. And I wasn't holding her back intentionally, but suddenly you go, oh my goodness, wow. And I think for me, the best way I've run teams is literally unleashing people's potential by saying, we work as a unit, we work as a team, we're aligned, we're all clear on what each other are doing and our purpose and our roles and why we're here. But actually, we all want each other to fulfill our potential as leaders and as human beings because we spend more time at work than we do with our families. We want people to love it. And therefore, unleashing potential feels like, wow. Actually, we really let people to just be amazing at what they do. And that's connected to another point to that, which is knowing that I don't need to be a deep subject matter expert on everything. For example, I know all about the Adobe Marketing Cloud. We use that in Martech and what we do with our data for loyalty. But I don't need to know it like I've read the manual, like page 42, paragraph 7. This widget over here does this. I don't know that. I don't need to. I have people that know that. I know how it works. I know what it does for us. I could have a great chat with Adobe about it, but I couldn't quote the manual to you. And if it broke, you wouldn't be the guy you turn to find the spanners and lift the lid on it. But it's and then therefore knowing that you unleash people's potential, but also you bring in a skill set and expertise where people know more than you, and they're the smartest person in the room because they've got all that knowledge, and you understand exactly what they're talking about and what they're going through, but you don't need all that in your head. My head would probably explode if I had all that inside me. We have brilliant people who just are great at that bit of the in-depth knowledge and delivery alongside that. Yeah.
I mean, on that note, you obviously have a long history in advertising and working on the brand side for a long time. The media landscape has changed quite a bit since, I'm assuming, you got started in your career. Where do you see the biggest opportunities in media right now for Boots? Are there places marketers should be looking more aggressively? Are there any specific trends or movements that you think are untapped? What are you doubling down on in your kind of media strategy to really reach out to your users?
I was going to say, how long have you got? How long have you got? This is a great question. Loads of opportunities. I probably would say this, but retail media. I mean, we run Boots Media Group here. Retail media is very exciting. This idea that retailers have this amazing first-party data and can use that to connect supplier brands with audiences in a very personal way. But I just think, going to AI again, the things you can now do on digital platforms with personalization in its broadest sense are very exciting. Whether that's with Snap that's sort of come back and resurged, which I love. Who'd have thought it? But the team there have been brilliant. TikTok, Meta, are things you can now do with personalization using AI and data and creative assets. For me, it's a very exciting time around how I can, with our brand, really connect with audiences. So I'm very excited about an industry where it's about personalization and better marketing, better communication, better offers, better things for you. That for me is very, very exciting and interesting. But it does create lots of challenges around how you measure properly and how you attribute and how you work out what role each channel plays. Because whilst I love those channels, I still love TV and radio and out of home, and those bits still have a role to play. So there isn't a media that I can't name you a media I feel unexcited about. God, that's a bit boring. But it's all about choice. That's going to be the fun bit. I think is the hard bit for marketers now. Is there's so much choice. You have to be selective on what you do, and you've got a finite budget. So knowing where to place it is critical too. So anyway, that's the fun problem. But there's so much more I'd love to do, but I just can't do it all. So being selective and focused is what matters. Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about AI and how you're applying that, because it can come in different shapes and forms. Obviously, for anything on data and planning and analytics to the creative expressions you're trying to get out with throughout through all these channels, right? And personalization. How are you thinking about AI in generally at Boots, and how are you actually kind of putting it into use right now? And do you do a lot of creative in house, or is it a bit of both? You're doing performance in house, you
It's
said.
a good question. It's quite a mix. So we do. We work with WPP on our bigger campaign activity. Do great work for us, including the Christmas campaign we've just done, which I'm really proud of. Make Magic with Adjoando from Bridgerton. She was brilliant, and WPP are great at those epic, great moments. They deliver great strategy, great campaigns. We've just done a value campaign that I'm really proud of. Again, they've done with us. But a lot of these sort of internal stuff, social and content, we do a fair amount of that ourselves now. We have an internal content team. We do a lot of performance media, paid search, social affiliates. We buy that in house internally now, and we also do like email creative and website creative, and and even some of our in store with agencies like Oliver and a mix. So we do a mix of smaller bespoke agencies, and we've got internal creative studios. So it is a mix. So AI, where AI helps us, and I touched about this earlier on, is I think AI helps us scale, helps us on certain creatives, and we're dipping our toe in more and more in this stuff. Is AI really helps us on where you need to just replicate. I want this sort of thing in this way. I want it in this variant and this other thing. We're starting to do more of that. There'll be more to come. I want this in a flyer. I want this in a poster. I want this in a digital screen. Da, 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 da. Yeah, and I'm very happy in imagery to say to use. I don't always need to use a real beach. I could use a AI beach with our sun cream Sultan on. But what I wouldn't do, as I mentioned a moment ago, is have you know people that aren't real on this activity when reality is a really important part, and the trust of our brand is a reality of the health and beauty expertise we give. So AI is helping us, I think, with brief writing. It's helping us shortcut some of the timescales on some simpler creative. It's helping us with email subject matter heading, and it's also helping us with things like when we work with Meta, for example, AI is so embedded in what we do now that the targeting and selections and the consideration of who gets what is just vitally part of our mix and what we do too. So no, I'm excited about its potential. I'm clear where the parameters are, but we're finding our way in and trying to make things connected to AI, like virtual production works. If I look at Christmas, we did film that in an aircraft hangar in Prague using green screen, but we filmed at the same time lots of plate shots where we could then go into a studio in London and film lots of products on a backdrop using a plate shot. We did it the year before. We filmed up a mountain, a snowy mountain, the year before in New Zealand. Filmed the plate and brought the plate back, and then filmed it in London, the studio, just to make all that more cost effective and efficient using that virtual technology and virtual production. I haven't got quite to the point where I can go, create me an a fake mountain, if that makes sense. We're not far off it. The challenge is if you want a mountain, someone's got to film the mountain for you to create the fake mountain. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll get there. We'll get there. And I've done bits of that in a campaign I did with TSB. So I think AI is important, but these virtual production techniques are also connected and so embedded. I think in they're connected together now. I think for brands, it's going to be really interesting how you create work going forwards. And again, if I look at how we filmed the Christmas ad in Prague, it was largely all green screen, and there are only a few real props. And we're not the first to do that, but it's the most creative of being an ad in the context of not filming. You're filming literally something that isn't there. You have to imagine or see on the screen what's going to be like. And I think you'll see more ads like that. There are creativity and expressiveness of a campaign will get pushed to the limit because of what you're now able to do, and it will feel more and more real. And I had so many people in the back of our Christmas ad going, "Wow, you really created this amazing immersive Santa's workshop, Mrs. Claus workshop, Santa and Mrs. Claus's workshop." Well, we did, but we sort of didn't, because it was green screen. Again, movies are doing this sort of thing, and I love Star Wars. It's one of my guilty pleasures. I love The Mandalorian.
Me
Fun
too.
enough, they don't fly, Oscar. They don't fly to alien worlds, do they, to film it? They make you think on alien worlds. And having seen it, they're walking on a treadmill, and the background around them's changing and moving. I think more of that movie technique you'll see come into advertising. We'll be able to create more amazing things. But AI is a bit of it, but virtual production is the other interest. But all of those bits together, I think, are really, really exciting. Yeah.
Authenticity is often confused with the realness of things. This is an actual other alien world. It isn't in Star Wars, right? We know it's made believe, but it still strikes us as an authentic story, right? And I think authenticity has a lot more to do with the human experience. I don't know, what do you think about that? Because I think the future AI is really blended. I mean, so we work with, 200,000 brands and marketers and creators around the world. And we've seen this in quite short amount of time that the future feels very blended, right? You will mix, like you're doing now, real models, because that is a very real part of what you're doing. You don't want to show off maybe models that aren't real just because you want to anchor some authenticity in the actual persona there. But you can then dress that up and use a blend of CGI and to create this whole authentic experience, right, for the viewer in this case. And I think that's important.
So I love this conversation because you've touched on something which is so important. It is the soul of creativity, isn't it? Pixar have done this brilliantly. I still like one of my favorite Pixar films is Incredibles, and The Incredibles is still, my son's now 24. It's one of his first childhood films. He could watch that on repeat now, and there are so many drum beats in that film. The original few Toy Story films where you feel it. I mean, the first 10 minutes of Up are the most incredible, moving films in a kids' movie where nothing is spoken, nothing is said, but the first 10 minutes of Up literally finishes me. And it's animation, but it's beautiful, it's human, it's about brokenness in a relationship, and it just puts into context people and relationships and what you go through in life. Because I'm feeling tearful describing it because it's powerful. And I think wherever we go on this creative journey, we need soul, we need connection. And what I would hate is I think virtual production is great. We can do all this cool stuff, but what we can't lose is heart and soul and emotion and connecting with people on a human level where they care. And I think that's really important. We did actually the summer campaign I've described was about a mountain, was about a little girl that should have brought a bag full of walking boots, but didn't. She brought a boots bag full of Boots products. And it's funny and clever. And actually, it's done so well. We're going to rerun it this summer. For the first time, we're going to reuse Creative because it's so effective. It's brilliant because it moves you because it's a human moment and it's funny, but it's about family. And I think I hope whatever journey we go on in both the amazing work from Disney and Pixar and Star Wars, please invite Oscar and I to Skywalker Ranch on the back of this. We love you. We'd love
Yes.
to, and we would love to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie as well. If you've got a walk on part for both of us, happy to be
That
stormtroopers.
is my life goal. We can be
Okay, well,
stormtroopers or anything.
okay.
LucasArts, just call us.
I'll
We're
tell you what.
available.
You and me, we're just going to pitch this on the back of this. This is where we're going on the back of this podcast.
Oh, yeah, indeed, indeed. I mean, so one of the applications that I'll throw at you that we're seeing a lot from the ad agencies that we work with and brands is the way that you can utilize technology now in a very new way, which is kind of this rapid prototyping of coming up with ideas, testing ideas faster. And again, your example with a mountain, it's very hard to scale that a shot of a mountain in trying different mountains, right? But in theory now, and you can create 10 different variations of that video with different mountains, let's say, and different flowers and different music quite quickly to see what's working. Is that something that you're approaching, this more iterative work on creative, or are you just like believer in one idea and like let's go for this?
Yeah, I think I like the iterative thing. Is I think with all of these techniques, I think you find your way into it, but you find your way into it with great partners. So I love working with the agencies I've outlined, WPP and Oliver, for example, where great agencies will push you and take you on a journey together. But I don't think you do a seismic jump. If I look at the shift between Christmas 2023 and 2024 in our work, we started to use some virtual production and some techniques even when we were filming in New Zealand. That then when you go full green screen the year after, you go, well, I'm familiar with some of the things we were doing, but we're sort of going a bit more in on it this time, and the route demanded that more. So I think you work your way there, just so it doesn't feel like you just always iterate. I do think you are influenced by brands around you. You see what else is going on, and I do think more and more we'll probably in a nice way be envious of each other's work and go, wow, how did they do that thing? In the same way, I'm saying to my agency, watch The Mandalorian, flipping out, well, they can do that now. Look, and it's different, but I think those are good things to go, I've seen this in the movies, I've seen it in Star Wars. Why can't I have it in my advert? They're good questions because we're all consuming media in that way. And I think part of the step change in this stuff is that sort of provocation of I will ease my way into stuff as I see it and get confident there with my agency partners. But if it's a way to step change stuff because I've seen it work somewhere else, then I'm all up for that. I'm all up for that innovation. It's brilliant.
What are your inspirations? What are there brands out there, or do you look to fiction to get inspiration? Star Wars is obviously a source of inspiration, as it is for
Star Wars
me.
is a big one, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I Star Wars five. I mean, I saw the first Star Wars film when I was 4 years old, and I don't have many childhood memories, but that one stayed with me. Star Wars really genuinely changed my life. I wrote an article about it years ago because suddenly this little boy living in Newcastle at the time had his eyes open to spaceships in a world that wasn't real. And I got then into comics. I got brought into sci-fi, Doctor Who, Buck Rogers, Star Trek, and it opened my eyes. And I suddenly started writing stories and creating things myself, and my creativity just exploded on the back of that. And I remember Star Wars figures, which I wish I'd kept because they're now worth like a lot of money. And I ripped the packaging open and literally played with them until they were broken. The other bit I've done that's built on that actually, that's almost re-fired that up because I think as an adult you do lose some of that because I was working for a bank for a number of years and it was quite logical and rational. And but I started learning improvised comedy about 6 years ago now, and I fell in love with it. And it's not stand-up comedy. Improvise is improvisation. You make it all up, and I'm currently learning improvised singing, where you make up a musical that didn't exist, scenes that didn't exist before you stood on stage. Bit terrifying, and so it's I think really exciting to create on that level with other people. And it's been when you play, you are playing at stuff. And I've loved playing again the same way I would have played with Star Wars figures or played with my friends as a kid. Suddenly you're playing as an adult, creating stuff, and it's lovely. Doing improv has been a great way for me to feel more creative and expressive. And I don't write poetry, or song lyrics, or stories like I used to when I was younger. But what I will do is create with friends, hopefully funny and fun scenes, and hopefully when I finish this advanced improv course, a musical improv course, in about 6 weeks' time, I will have created a musical that did not exist until the minute we stood on that stage. That's exciting, and that fires me up. That sense of creativity is wonderful.
That sounds amazing. I couldn't agree more. I want to see this musical. That's
I'll have to send you the
fantastic.
video
I've
after.
actually done that. No, but it's something freeing about it. I talked to my friends a lot the other day actually about this, and like everyone has this whole stack of business books on their nightstand, and it's like you feel compelled to get all those books, right? But I feel like they're so trapped in a way. I find my way of I'm a big sci-fi nerd as well. I love Star Wars and playing games. I play a lot of video games with my kids. I think that is so much fun. And how freeing it is to jump in on the other side of fiction, and how much you're actually unblocking yourself with that and coming up with ideas and feeling a bit freer in your mind. Actually, it's something I recommend to a lot of people to do, is to do team exercises with improv. So I've done taken teams to do improv classes, and it is as cringy as it is in the beginning. Everyone steps out of that experience with a new take on the group and the interaction with each other.
I found I did about actually exactly 5 years ago. I got 9 other marketing directors of me to learn improv. I'd learned a bit already, but they all learnt it with me. And then we did a show for Comic Relief, raised 30 grand. It was brilliant, the charity bit. But the greatest thing was how quickly people bonded. People who'd never met before. One improv lesson, someone walked away and literally word for word said, "It feels like I've known you for years, and I met you 2 hours ago." And improv, suddenly you bond over creating something together, and that shared experience. I don't have to sit in the pub and tell you my life story. We've just created a funny 2 minute scene together. Suddenly we're like best pals for life. That's wonderful. That's liberating. And so improv has these lovely benefits too that are about creativity, but it connects you and brings you together and unites people. And I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
You have so much wisdom, Peter. I want to get some good lessons out there for all the marketers that are tuning into this. So, what should marketers really be doing right now to make AI work for them in their teams? I think there's a lot of we've been the past couple of years now. AI has been this discussion, but I think now all the brands and enterprises that we talk to, and I spend my weeks talking to both Fortune 500s and small businesses, and everyone is feeling this like, I need to get into this. It's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of what if I don't do this? I need to apply it in some way. What are some good practical tips that you could share with us on how to bring this into your team and marketing and creative strategies?
So what I've done within the Boots team is I've made someone in my team like the sponsor for AI and every initiative that they're aware of and they're across it. So I think having a central focal point of coordinating everything you do, particularly in a team size like mine, there's lots going on. But then just don't feel afraid. I think do move at the pace you feel comfortable and confident in, work with great partners, develop a right test and learn plan, be clear on the parameters around, like I described with not using fake people, things you will and won't do with your brand, and then start to go on a journey. But don't hide from it, don't run away from it. And I think the reason also for me having someone across it's been really important is so no one in the team feels threatened and there's nothing secret like, oh, there's this secret AI thing. No, there's not. We're just doing some AI stuff. So I think lifting the lid on it and be honest with people about and getting everyone involved in it. And so I see very much my role and the team's role about preparing marketers for the future. And that is making people aware of what's going on here and what they can do. Because if we don't, we all end up becoming dinosaur marketers where suddenly a great innovation or revolution is happening, not just in this area, but others. And you reach the end of it and think, golly, I don't know what that thing is.
And looking ahead a little bit, we started this episode with optimism about technology and kind of manifesting the good in everything that's going on. What is your prediction for AI's role in marketing in like 5 years from now, let's say?
It's hard, isn't it? All I can say is that AI is going to keep getting better at what it does. And it's quite funny now. If you type into Microsoft Copilot, who is Pete Markey, you get that Pete Markey is a CMO of Boots, but then it goes off at a tangent and says that I am married to someone who died recently and I've been married to them for, I think, 44 years. And now I might have started work in the 1990s, but I'm not that old. And so I have to go to Copilot and say, actually, I'm not married to that person. No, that's a different person. And Copilot comes back and says, oh, whoops, I got it wrong. Now, I say that as an example because that's a mistake now, but it's an okay mistake because the rest of the biography is all right. But if someone's writing that on me, they could get it wrong. But it won't stay that way. Copilot in 5 years' time will be something very, very different, and you won't have those mistakes. And so I think the future means a more intuitive, more helpful, more interesting AI. I think we've just got to work out then our role as marketers in how far we want to take that and what we want to do. I'm supporting a friend who's got a small content business that's growing well, and I've helped her with a couple of marketing plans that I've used a bit of AI for, quite different businesses. And AI's done a good job. Microsoft Copilot, again, of helping with some of those marketing plans. And then I've come and worked around them. And over time, I might say I could trust AI to do a lot more of that sort of stuff for me. What's my role? My role is then the coordination of take that example of that business is what kind of businesses you want to work on, measuring the results and performance of it. But we might say, oh, golly, writing a marketing plan is a bit, golly, that's a bit dull. Get AI to write that. But what we want to do is spearhead the creative and innovation and the ideation more. So I think it's going to be about, in 5 years' time, AI will play a bigger role. I think it'll help take away tasks that are less exciting. It'll make things better. It'll sprinkle magic dust over stuff. It'll make us much faster at what we do, which is what we need, particularly in retail. But my hope is it doesn't take away the spark and the magic of what we do. And there's still, I believe, definitely a role for us as people to still bring the magic in our work. And I hope it makes our jobs more interesting, more fulfilling, because we're doing the ultimate expression of our craft rather than some of the more administrative side of what we do. I'm optimistic about the future, but I do think the future's... Doc Brown said this in Back to the Future 3, profoundly. Good old Doc Brown. Dr. Emmett Brown, he said, your future's not written yet, your future's what you make it. So I'm going to quote Dr. Emmett Brown, the final moments of Back to the Future 3. And he's right. So the future is what we make it. So I do think there's a moment for us as marketers to go, what is this future and what do we want it to be? And how do we work together to get there? Lots to consider. I feel optimistic in 5 years. It'll be very different, but I hope we don't lose the spark of originality, creativity, and passion on what makes great marketing great marketing.
Peter, it's so lovely to meet you and chat about this. This was Makes You Wonder with Peter Markey, and I'm very excited to continue following what you're doing at Boots and all the amazing awards and recognition you're doing for your work. It's so fun to see. Keep up the good work.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. All the best. Take care.
Thank you for watching and listening to Makes You Wonder. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a solid and hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. For extra karma, please share with your mom and your friends too. Makes You Wonder is made with love by Wondercraft, the AI audio studio for brands and creative teams. It's hosted by Oskar. You can find Oskar on LinkedIn, X, and Threads. Links in show notes. This episode was produced by Alex Hughes Morgan. It was edited by Zaina. A nice young man named Dimitri from Wondercraft was the executive producer. Learn more about Wondercraft at wondercraft.ai.